Welcome to the Tan and J-Man Show. I'm Tanner Lee. My co-host across from me on the computer screen from the, I would say great state, but let's just call it state of Illinois. For the 300th time, not the 300th time we've both done the show, but for the 300th time one of us has done the show, the Tan and J-Man Show, episode 300. What is going on, J-Man?
Yeah, I don't think there's been one episode where both of us have missed. Is there?
I don't remember it being one.
No. 300 straight. We didn't always do it on a Monday. When we started out, I think we did it on a Monday, and then we tried like a Wednesday one time, and for whatever reason, Monday just worked.
Yeah, I mean, this 300 straight weeks. It wasn't always Monday, but 300 straight weeks we've been on. So, which is pretty impressive. Started on November 28th, 2016. If you would have told me then we'd have 300 consecutive podcasts, I would have said you're crazy. Mm-hmm. You're crazy. I know we've had some big milestones, 100, 150, 200, 250, but something about 300 just seems to be hitting different this time. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's for one, it's a big number.
It's true.
We're coming up on 6 years. It's crazy. I remember when we were starting, or for like ever, we'd talk about like, man, we just need to like put a mic in front of us. We know a lot about sports. Just put a mic in front of us. Then you text me. I remember I was home in Iowa for Thanksgiving in 2016. You text me, hey, bring some headphones over on Monday. I want to record a podcast. Like, all right, let's do it.
Yep. I remember when I was going back and forth. Do I want to do a podcast? Do I want to write a blog? Do I want to do both? And I'm like, I like talking better than I do writing. So we just kind of went for it. Bought some cheap equipment off Amazon and went for it. And we've had upgrades to equipment. We've had different recording locations over the years. Now we've been doing it almost for a year now, coming up on a year in October. We've been doing it just on StreamYard with you being in Illinois and me still being in Indiana. So that's worked out fine. Joined the ISC Sports Network March 2019. It's crazy. It's been over 3 years since we started going live on their television network every week. Before that, we were just audio only. And we dabbed into a little YouTube Live, and I forget what that Google program used to be called. The live Google service they used to have. But so we did a little bit of that, but then we had to adjust a little bit, being live on camera every week. But now we're just used to it, I would say.
Oh yeah. I remember when we first started, we'd try to start the episode, and it would take us probably 6 or 7 times without laughing.
Just awful. It was
terrible. I wish we had. I mean, we have some bloopers from back in the day that you've saved. I remember.
Yeah.
It was rough at first, and then when I was hesitant to do any sort of video because it took us forever to even get the thing started. But now it's like whatever now.
Yeah, I need to pull some of the audio from over the years one of these days. I should have done it tonight, but my producer wasn't on top of things. But I need to give some thank yous. I mean, this is definitely not a goodbye episode or anything. We're just getting started. But need to give some thank yous. I mean, we've had multiple fill-ins and guests over the years. My dad's filled in for me quite a few times. Good friends of the show, Evan Webb, Aaron Lynch, Cameron Screeton, Connor Thompson. We've had Andrew Eiler and his wife Isabella Eiler on as guests. We've had both Watrines, Nate and Travis on. Chris Smith was kind enough to come do an interview. Chris Giannini of the Winning Cures Everything podcast came on with us, spoke some college football. Jason Sobel, who's a longtime golf writer and analyst, he came on early in the days of the podcast. Ex-Purdue quarterback Rob Henry. We've had local coaches, Garrett Weiniger, who's now the head coach for the boys basketball team at Fitchers High School. Corey Good, that's the Rochester High School baseball coach. The late Brian Hooker, who was Rochester baseball coach and Rochester football coach. Also want to give a shout-out to Audrey Carpenter, who created our logo that we use to this day, because my logo was not good at all. And also thank you to the ISC Sports Network, like we mentioned, Greg Mash, Greg Rakestraw, Derek Schultz, who I work with every week and does a great job of putting our content out there on the socials. And thanks to the Tan and J-Man Show Nation for all their support over the first 300 episodes, and whether that's listening every week, listening once in a while, watching every week, buying some merchandise of ours. Just appreciate it. That's what keeps us going. That's what keeps us motivated to do this. So
Thanks, Mom and Dad.
yeah. Thanks, Mom and Dad. So, all right, I think I got all my thank yous out of the way. I'm ready to roll into this week's episode.
I have some Birdie Bogey for you here.
All right.
The AP poll was released today for college football. So that got me thinking, what team has been ranked number one in the preseason poll for the most times since I think they released a preseason poll the Associated Press has since 1951. What team has been ranked number one in the preseason poll the most?
That's a really good question.
So obviously a lot of rich history there, and like the top five, obviously the top five are pretty easy. You can go down the list and like, yep, that team's one of them. It's been in the top five most ever. But what team has been number one the most?
That's a really good question. I like
preseason poll only.
I was not ready for that. I was ready for a baseball question.
I had a baseball question. Do you want to hear my baseball question?
Yeah, why not?
Aaron Judge became I think it was the fifth Yankee ever to have multiple 45 homer seasons. Can you name the other four that did it?
Alex Rodriguez.
Mm-hmm.
Babe Ruth.
Yep.
45, you said?
Yep.
Mickey Mantle.
Yep.
Reggie Jackson.
No. You got a bogey. Lou Gehrig.
Lou Gehrig was going to be my next guess, but I knew he did it once. I didn't think he did it twice. Okay. Yeah. I knew Maris didn't do it twice, even though he hit 61 one year.
Yeah, Maris was kind of a 1-year wonder almost. I mean, he had an okay career. It wasn't anything special. He's not a Hall of Famer, I don't believe.
No, I don't think he is.
Yeah, Roger Maris had that one insane year. He only hit 275 career homers. He was a good ball player, but not Hall of Fame level. But Birdie Bogey brought to you by Noble Gnome LLC for fresh, locally grown, nutrient-dense produce from Bryce and Katie Romine of Mentone, Indiana. Like them on Facebook, follow them on Instagram, and check out their website, noblegnomellc.com. Get your veggies!
I had some of their sweet corn not too long ago. Good stuff. Good stuff like always. Have you had any sweet corn yet this year?
I have not.
You better get some before it's too late.
I know. There is a good spot here that I've always wanted to go and get it, and I just never have. Right next to our favorite ice cream place. I'm there quite a bit, and I just never pulled the trigger.
You could mix them together.
Corn and ice cream?
Yeah. Crazier things have been tried.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard of people sprinkling corn on top of their ice cream, but might be
actually, I know of a ice cream place that had Indiana sweet corn as an ice cream flavor.
Really?
I was not bold enough to try it.
I wouldn't either. I love sweet corn, but I don't know if I'd like it an ice cream form.
Yeah. Hey, to each their own.
Well,
their own.
People like the Jelly Bellies with all the crazy flavors.
That's true. Yeah. That's true. Well, before we get too far in this episode, I do have some going back to November 28th, 2016. I got some facts about that time period. Barack Obama was president still. Mm-hmm. The number one song the week of November 28th, 2016. Any guesses what the number one song? It was a country song.
Country song?
Yep. This was the most digital downloaded, I guess I should say. So the digital singles chart.
Country song.
I'll even give you the artist. Keith Urban.
Couldn't die.
Let's see here. Blue Ain't Your Color.
Never heard of it.
Oh, come on! I bet you have.
I've probably heard it, but I've never heard that title before.
Well, I am not going to sing it for you, so you're not lucky enough. You heard me in my Manitou days, so it's not coming out. Top movie. Could you guess what the number one box office movie was?
November 2016.
Yep.
Was it a Bond movie?
No, it was a Disney movie.
I don't think Frozen wasn't out yet, or Frozen had been out for a few years. Disney movie. I have no idea.
Moana.
That's actually a pretty good Disney movie.
I have not seen it.
I'm surprised. The Rock.
I know. Number 2 movie was Fantastic Beast and Where to Find Them. Number 3 was Allied. Number 4, Arrival. Number 5, Doctor Strange. Number 6, Bad Santa 2. Number 7, Trolls. Number 8, Hacksaw Ridge. Number 9,
Ridge is fantastic.
Almost Christmas. Number 10, The Edge of 17.
Hacksaw Ridge is the only one on that list that I would highly recommend.
This was in November 2016. Well, that's not what I was looking for. That says 7 new Netflix shows. I was trying to look for the top series. Well, here, I'll grab something from December 2016. Data reveals the top 20 most popular TV shows of 2016.
2016. Oh, man. What would number 1 be?
It's pretty popular.
2016. Was it Stranger Things?
No, Game of Thrones.
Oh. Never got into Game of Thrones.
Number 2, The Walking Dead. Still going on. The last season's coming up in October, I believe.
Didn't know people still watch that show. I gave up a long time ago.
Oh, my girlfriend's mother's a huge Walking Dead fan. Huge. I couldn't get into it.
I got to about season 7, and I was just like, when's this going to end? And 7 years later, here we are. They're still going.
Number 3 was Pretty Little Liars. Number 4 was Westworld. Number 5 was The Flash. Number 6, The Big Bang Theory. Number 7 was The OA. Number 8 was Stranger Things. There's Stranger Things. Number 9 was Korea's Running Man.
Never heard of that.
And number 10 was Suits.
Suits. I remember Suits. Never watched it.
USA Network. USA Network. Yep. I just mentioned my girlfriend a minute ago. I told her I was going to say this on tonight's pod, but got her to watch Field of Dreams for the first time ever.
Nice.
Yesterday. So,
you like it?
Yeah, she liked it, but she thought some of it was confusing and didn't make sense. And there are some parts that you kind of scratch your head and you think back. Like there's a lot of conspiracy theories about that movie. I'd say it's probably one of the top sports movies as far as conspiracy theories go, I would say, if not the top.
Yeah. I had a former coworker that thought it was a true story.
No.
He goes, you I think I've told you this one, and you know exactly who I'm talking about. He goes, those ghosts really come out of that cornfield? That was one of my favorites. I love Field of Dreams. It's a great movie. Not my favorite baseball movie, but definitely gets a nostalgic feel, especially watching the Field of Dreams game on Thursday night.
Well, and you got some Iowa blood in you, so I do. It's not heaven. It's Iowa.
It's Iowa. Never been there. It's only an hour and some change from my mom and dad, so one of these days I need to go check it out. I don't think they're doing the game next year for whatever reason.
They're redoing the stadium, I read. So it's going to be, or adding to it, maybe adding on. So it's going to be another year or two.
Yeah, I hope they don't take away the fun of it by making too big of a stadium. I mean, it holds 8,000 now. I hope they don't add another deck to it. I hope it would take away from the charm of it completely.
You know, as much as I like the last scene of that movie, it's always bugged me that he didn't just say, "Hey, Dad, you want to play catch?"
I want to play catch.
It's Dad, you want to have a catch?
Yeah,
who says that?
Saw, a Cubs. Somebody, I don't think he works for the Cubs, but he was at the game and he got to go on the field and he asked like every player, "Is it have a catch or play catch?" And like every single player said play catch. No one says have a catch. I've never said have a catch in my entire life.
I don't know where that came from, but all in all, good movie. Definitely one of the better sports movies of all time. But what's your favorite baseball movie? Since you said that's not it.
It's hard to go against The Sandlot. That was kind of a nostalgic one too. I used to watch that a bunch when I was a kid. Rookie of the Year, I used to watch that a bunch when I was a kid. Angels in the Outfield, watched that a bunch when I was a kid. Major League's a classic. I also like Moneyball too.
Yeah.
Probably Sandlot though.
You a Natural fan?
Never seen it.
Really?
Yep, I never seen it.
I James Earl Jones, man, Sandlot and Field of Dreams.
Yeah, he's in Darth Vader.
Darth Vader. He did pretty well for himself.
I was gonna say he's had a pretty good career.
Yeah, yes he has. But no, it's Field of Dreams is a good one. I don't know too many people who don't like it. So, yep.
Yeah, I remember reading the book because the book was Shoeless Joe. I remember reading the book in I think middle school, maybe
I read that book too.
Yeah, that's what the movie's based off of, and they didn't think Shoeless Joe was a good enough title. But it is kind of about Shoeless Joe. So.
Yeah, I read that book now that you mentioned it, and I never put two and two together. I'm not very bright sometimes.
Well, I remember reading it, and of course I watched Field of Dreams when I was a kid, and I remember reading it, I was like, this is very familiar. It's very familiar.
That's back when you read.
I still read.
I know you still read.
Got to keep this mind sharp.
We got a few comments here on from Facebook. Thad Mooney was talking about when we talked about TV shows earlier. He said, hasn't been good since season 5. Walking Dead would have been legit if it was an HBO product. Could have matched the graphic novel so much better. Last concept I saw there, wanting to turn it into a mega sports complex out there in the corn. Speaking of the Field of Dreams stadium.
I hope they don't. Keep it the way it is.
I honestly can't say I watched a single pitch of that game the other night.
The only reason I did is because the Cubs were in it.
Sure.
And it was a pretty boring game, honestly. 3 runs were scored in the first inning, and then I think 2 runs the rest of the game, something like that. Not a whole lot went on. 2 terrible teams for one. It was a terrible, terrible product that we put on the field. 2 of the worst teams in the National League.
Well, what did I see? They're going to play in London next year? In London?
Yeah, against Cardinals, which they were supposed to have Cubs Cardinals in London, but it was 2020, so they had to push it.
Gotcha.
They had to cancel it, so that's kind of why they're doing it now. Yankees Red Sox were in London a few years ago, 2019 maybe.
Sounds right.
So yeah, I wish Major League Baseball would stop giving the Cubs so many primetime opportunities, because then it would give the Ricketts zero incentive to continue to buy and spend money. Although there is quite a bit of, if you read the tea leaves a little bit, it looks like Cubs are going to be pretty aggressive this offseason, a chance to be pretty good next year. We'll see how it all shakes out. But
you've already mentioned that that's going to be part of your 23 bold predictions for 2023 is going to be some Cubs acquisitions.
Yeah. I have a few in mind. I mean, of course, they need a lot of help at a lot of positions, pitching all over the field. But I think they better anyway. If they don't, they're going to continue to lose ticket sales for sure.
What's going on in the world of baseball, the world of MLB?
World of baseball. Some idiot put $100 on the Cubs to win the World Series this year today.
It was not me.
It was not you. It was not anyone who has half a brain.
Some idiot.
Cubs are 15.5 game out of the division, and they're 15.5 games out of the wild card. So it would take a legitimate miracle.
They'd have to almost win out.
They would pretty much, if they won out, they'd probably win the division. They'd be 96 and 66.
Okay, never mind.
But yeah, it would take an absolute miracle. I mean, they're 19 games under 500 now. Their schedule's brutal coming up. They've had a really easy schedule here the past week and a half or so, which is why they've won some games. But they have Milwaukee for a couple this weekend. I think it's this weekend. Then they have St. Louis for 5. Then they have to go to Milwaukee, to Toronto, to St. Louis. So there's a stretch of baseball coming up where they might go 0-17, which honestly is probably the best case scenario. But unfortunately, they play the Washington Nationals tonight, and the Nationals are the worst team in the sport. 40 games under 500.
Where's that game at?
In Washington.
Over under 8,000.
Oh, man.
That'll probably be over, but no.
It'll probably be over, and majority of them will probably be Cubs fans. But, man, Washington had so much potential to be great. And I talked about it last week. I mean, they had Harper, they had Soto, they had Scherzer, they had a healthy Strasburg, they had Anthony Rendon. They had a chance to be a dynasty, and for whatever reason, it just didn't happen for them. And now I think their owner's selling, which is probably why they were willing to trade Juan Soto. Their owner's selling. They need somebody to buy them. I have no idea who would even be interested. I wouldn't want to live in DC for one, nor own a business in DC. So it could be a while before the Washington Nationals are good again, if they are ever good again. They might have to move back to Montreal before they're good again. But elsewhere around baseball, Cubs, as I said, are playing decent baseball right now. In fact, Ian Happ became the only Cubs hitter ever to hit 10 or more homers in each of his first 6 seasons in the big leagues, all with the Cubs.
That's a good trivia question.
Yeah, I wouldn't have guessed Ian Happ at all. There's another Ian Happ stat. Ian Happ at Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati has the 8th highest OPS at any ballpark in the history of the sport, with at least 150 plate appearances. He has a 1.229 OPS at Great American Ballpark. The only hitters that have had better success at any ballpark: Babe Ruth at the Polo Grounds, Barry Bonds at Oracle Park in San Francisco, Mel Ott at the Baker Bowl, Ted Williams at Sportsman's Park, Barry Bonds at Riverfront Stadium, Ryan Braun at Citizens Bank Park, and Babe Ruth at League Park the Fourth. Those are the only players that have had greater success at any ballpark than Ian Happ has in Cincinnati.
A lot of good names on that list.
Yeah, Babe Ruth. Ian Happ's about the only one that doesn't belong. And the two guys behind him, Babe Ruth at Connie Mack Stadium and Joe DiMaggio at Sportsman's Park. So a bunch of Hall of Famers and Ian Happ. And I guess Ryan Braun too. And who knows, maybe Bonds doesn't get in even though he's probably the greatest hitter ever.
Right.
But the Cubs, a terrible stat here for the Cubs. They have the most losses in baseball after holding a 3-run lead this year. They have lost.
That's
11,
not good.
They've lost 11 games after winning the game by 3+ runs or having a lead of 3 or more runs, which is kind of amazing because their pitching or their bullpen, for one, has been really good this year. So they must have blown it early. I remember early in the season, Cubs I think they had the most first inning runs scored in baseball this year for the first, 2 or 3 months of the year. And it seems like every time the starting rotation would give it up by the 4th inning. So that's not overly shocking because Cubs are a bad baseball team, although they've played better since the trade deadline, which you thought they'd play worse. But again, schedule's easier than it was. Some more baseball stats here. Bad news in San Diego with Fernando Tatis Jr. being suspended 80 games for testing positive for performance-enhancing drugs. His teammates and his general manager have really ripped on him. His GM said, there's been some issues, and we just hope he can mature, but obviously he hasn't matured yet. And one of his teammates, Mike Clevenger, said pretty much the same thing. So there sounds like there's been some issues with Tatis there in San Diego, and man, he signed a massive deal with them.
Well, that's too bad because I was thinking he was going to be healthy and back right around postseason time and make their run even more interesting than it could be, and kind of watered that down a little bit.
Yeah, he was at a minor league rehab assignment, so he was pretty close to being activated. And now, he's going to miss a lot of the first half of next year too. He's going to miss probably 50 or so games, 40 or so games.
Don't do steroids, period.
And you got to be smarter. He said, a lot of the guys say, I don't knowingly know what I knew. I put that in my body, but you got to do research if you're going to take any sort of supplement,
right?
Because there could be a performance enhancing drug that is banned in it. His dad, Fernando Tatis Sr., said it was something for hair loss, I want to say. Which he's 23. Of course, I started losing my hair at like 17, so I guess I can't really say anything. But he's 23 years old. So supposedly it's something with hair, which makes zero sense to me. You just got to be smart in that. He is just the 3rd player in the expansion era to finish top 3 in MVP voting and missed the entire following season. He joins Moises Alou, who missed the 99 season due to a torn ACL following a treadmill accident, and Sandy Koufax, who retired following his 1966 season. Albert Pujols hit his 687th home run of his career back on August 11th. I think he hit 2 yesterday, actually.
He hit 2, yeah. He's 11 away.
But, yes, he 11 away from 700. He's not going to get there this year. I don't know if he'll try to come back for one more year. He's actually having an okay season.
He shouldn't, because he's already said since last year they put him in home run derby.
Yeah.
But
Albert Pujols, on August 11th, it was the 448th different pitcher he's faced that he's hit a home run off of. Which was one shy of Barry Bonds for most pitchers homered against in MLB history. I don't know if he passed that yesterday or not. He might have. He also had 4 hits, and he became the oldest player in Cardinals history to record a 4-hit game. So he's actually having a pretty good year. He's like 19% above league average offensively. So the Cardinal Devil magic rears its ugly head.
He likes the National League pitching better than AL pitching, I guess.
He does, yeah. Which
he's one of the greats. He's one of the greats.
Yeah, unfortunate. I mean, it's not unfortunately. He seems like a really good guy. Pretty likable fella. He was just a massive Cub killer over the years, and I grew to detest him.
Understandable,
as one does. But
add him to the list.
Add him to the list. Who's not on the list? I can't think of a player who's not on the list. Neil Walker's on the list. How many people even heard of Neil Walker? Let's see. We have Kirk Neuenhuis. He's on the list.
Scooter Gennett.
Scooter Gennett. He's on the list. A grown man named Scooter. But yeah, elsewhere around baseball, the Mets still playing ridiculous baseball. They're 35.
Unfortunately,
500. DeGrom's back throwing 102. They probably have the best chance in the National League, in my opinion, to make the World Series, especially with the news today in LA. Walker Buehler is out for the season.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, just announced today he had an arm issue. He's missed a lot of the season anyway. But that's a guy in a short playoff series. You need an ace type guy, and the Dodgers don't really have him. I don't really have a guy because Kershaw's not that anymore. So that really hurts them. But the Dodgers are still 45 games over 500. They just had a 12-game winning streak where they won by multiple runs each game. It was just snapped yesterday. So they're still pretty dang good. 79-34. They're just an absolute machine. The Padres, even after trading for Juan Soto, their offense has been pretty bad, which is shocking. Trade for Soto and Bell and Brandon Drury. But they're still in real good shape. Playoff spot. They're 2 games up in a playoff spot over Milwaukee. Cardinals are winning the Central. They're playing some good baseball. Unfortunately, they're a game and a half up over Milwaukee. Braves are still really good. They're 24 games over 500, 5.5 games out in the NL East, but they're 7.5 up in the playoff spot, so they're going to be a dangerous wild card team, and they could catch the Mets for sure. Phillies and Cardinals are tied for that last playoff spot right now. They'd both be in. They're both 63 and 51. Phillies are playing good baseball. In the AL East, Yankees are still 10 games up on Toronto. Have not played that well here the past month and a half or so, but you're allowed a little bit of leeway when you go absolutely scorched earth for the first.
Yeah, built that cushion early.
Yeah, you do that early, then you can kind of catch your breath a little bit. But Toronto's 10 games behind them. Tampa Bay's 11. Baltimore's 12.5. And Boston Red Sox are sitting there dead last in the AL East. Baltimore, as of, I think it was Thursday last week, they were in sole possession of a playoff spot for the first time since the end of 2016. They are now at a game and a half out of the playoff spot.
Still a good story, though.
Great story, which that's the and that's after trading their closer and their first baseman at the trade deadline. So with this new added playoff team to baseball, you're going to definitely see more contenders for sure. And yeah, Baltimore's a great story, and they have some really good young talent coming up here too.
The baby birds, I believe they call their farm
pretty
system.
Close to the big league. Yeah, they're going to be they're going to make some noise here soon. The Cleveland Indians are now winning the AL Central.
Guardians.
Oh man,
that's a good story too.
Yes, that one's going to take me longer than the Oakland Raiders and the San Diego Chargers did, for sure. But yeah, because the Cleveland Guardians. I apologize to all those Guardians fans that I'm sure are not offended that I called them the Indians. They're a really good story. Andres Jimenez has turned into a superstar for him. I think he was part of the Frankie Lindor deal with the Mets. Now he's arguably better than Lindor. I think he's playing second base right now, but White Sox are still hanging around. They're tied with the Twins for that second spot in the AL Central, 2.5 games out. It's likely division or bust for the AL Central, and the Indians are pitching well. Not many people thought they'd be that good this year. And,
Guardians.
Oh man, Guardians. Oh, that's gonna take me forever. They've been the Indians my entire life, but of course the Raiders were in Oakland my entire life as well.
And Chargers San Diego.
San Diego. The AL West, Houston's run away with it. They're one of the best teams in baseball. Again, they are the American League equivalent of the Dodgers here the past 6 years.
It's annoying. You're right, though.
Super annoying. 13 games up on Seattle. I hope Seattle makes playoffs. They're 2 games up in a wild card spot right now. The Rangers, after spending about $700 million this offseason, they fired their manager today. They're 12 games under 500. They're pretty bad. Angels are bad. Oakland's horrendous. They're 33 games under 500. We knew that was going to happen, though, once they traded all their guys. But, I think that's pretty much all I have for baseball this week.
We got some other segments to cover. One segment, a new segment this week. We asked for some listener and viewer questions this week, and loyal listener and viewer, he does a little bit of both, and he's been a sponsor this year with Mooney Woodcrafts. He's been a sponsor of the On This Day segment. Thad Mooney sent in 4 different questions for us. One question was, who's our favorite college football and college basketball player that underachieved the most in the pros? J-Man, I'll let you go first.
College football and college basketball player that underachieved. I loved Aurelius Ben back in late 2000s with Illinois. He was a second-round pick for Jacksonville, and he got hurt, never really panned out. He was maybe my favorite college player. And Mikel Lashore as well. He was a second-round pick of the Lions, and then liked his drug use a little too much to stick in the NFL. So he was kind of a bust. But I really like those 2 guys. College basketball, I mean, you can say Myers Leonard. I hated that team he was on at Illinois, though, the one that lost 15 of 17 games to end the year. He didn't have a great NBA career. That's a good question, though. I can't really think of a good college basketball one for you.
For me, I put 2 Purdue ones down, and then I put some non-Purdue ones down as well. My 2 Purdue ones for football was Dustin Keller, first round pick by the Jets. I mean, he got derailed by an awful ACL injury when he was on the Dolphins. So, I mean, I guess what could have been maybe. So maybe that's not fair, but that's the only one that could come to my mind for Purdue football, because usually if they're drafted first, second, third round, they actually usually do have a pretty good career, it seems like. Mm-hmm. For Purdue basketball, I put Juwan Johnson. He's a first-round pick by the Celtics, and he flamed out within 2 years, and he's doing fine in Europe, but never got back in the NBA. And I almost put the late Caleb Swanigan on there as well, because he was a great college player and just never found his footing in the NBA. Couple other ones I put for college basketball. Adam Morrison. I really enjoyed watching him play, and he was just not good for the Charlotte Bobcats. Football, I have 3 of them here. Johnny Manziel, a.k.a. Johnny Football. I really enjoyed watching him at Texas A&M, and he just wasn't very good for Cleveland. Reggie Bush, he had an okay NFL career, but not what I thought he was going to have. He was so fun to watch in college. And then Tim Tebow.
His 2 best years were in Miami, and he was actually pretty fun to watch in Miami. But, yeah, didn't do a whole lot with the Saints. And then I think he ended up in, Buffalo.
Yep, he was also the Lions. Yep. Mm-hmm. And then Tim Tebow. I mean, he was a glorified Heisman winner, arguably the best Florida player ever, one of the best college quarterbacks ever. And, I mean, he had a few moments that 2011 season with Denver, but then didn't do anything for the Jets or the Patriots or the Eagles. So, then tried to play tight end last year for the Jaguars. That didn't go well. Tried to play in the minor league with the Mets. Remember the Timmy segment we used to do? Timmy Report, Tim Tebow Report.
He was one of the worst minor league baseball players ever.
So those were a couple of mine. Another one, this was a good one. Favorite undrafted NFL, NBA, MLB player?
NFL player, man. You texted me these earlier, and then I just got busy with work, and I completely forgot. Favorite undrafted? You go first, and I'll think of one.
I did NFL and NBA, but I did not do MLB because I have no idea who was drafted and who wasn't, to be honest, off the top of my head. NFL, I put Chris Harris Jr. I mean, he was really good for the Broncos for a long time. Pro Bowler. Now he's with the Los Angeles Chargers and still pretty decent. And Brad Miller for the NBA. Purdue product, 2-time All-Star. Pretty good career for himself.
My favorite NFL guy that's been undrafted was Cam Wake.
That's
he
a good
was
one.
He was great in Miami. Loved him in Miami. He if he would have played his entire career, I think he became a 27-year-old rookie. If he would have started at 22, put up the kind of numbers he did, he would be looking at maybe a potential Hall of Famer. He was really good there. I think he ended up with about 100 career sacks. So he was a good one. MLB, you can really choose any Latin American player because they weren't technically drafted. So mine might be Big Z. I love Carlos Zambrano.
It's a good one.
A lot. NBA, I don't really have an NBA. Kofi Coburn, I guess I could say.
There you go.
But yeah, I don't really have a good NBA.
Was Luther Head drafted?
He was a first-round pick.
Was he really? Wow.
Yeah, Houston Rockets.
Wow. Okay.
Brian Cook was a first-round pick. Frankie Williams was a first-round pick. Frankie Williams is a guy that I could have said for the last segment, favorite college basketball player that didn't really pan out in the NBA. But yeah.
Out of the 4 major pro sports, who's your greatest what-if player? Either injuries like Derrick Rose or retirement like Megatron, Barry Sanders.
I mean, Derrick Rose is a great one. He gave that. Greatest what? Jose Fernandez in baseball.
That's what I was thinking.
Passing away at 24. He was a superstar. There was also a guy with the Cardinals back in 2014 who was 21, 22, Oscar Taveras, who died in a he died in a car accident. He was looking like a potential like 330 hitter, really good hitter for the Cardinals, and so that's kind of a what if. Obviously, we have J.R. Richard with the Houston Astros looking like a Hall of Fame level pitcher, and then I think he had a stroke, and it derailed his career. So those are some good what ifs.
Yeah, I was having trouble thinking of this one, to be honest. I was trying to think in the NFL. Actually, and I don't agree with what this guy did by any means, so I don't want anybody to take this the wrong way, but I almost want to put Michael Vick on this list.
Yeah.
Because when he got caught doing what he did with the dogfighting, there wasn't a more entertaining athlete in sports. When he was on the Atlanta Falcons. Came back, had that one okay year, pretty good year with the Eagles, but then he tampered off. But, if he didn't do that horrible act and stayed in his prime, he could have been something.
Yeah, he was electric. That's a good one. That's a really good one.
And the last one he sent in, these are really good questions, so thank you again to Thad for sending these in. One player you can draft and have on your team: Reggie Miller, Ray Allen, Steph Curry. Take into account all aspects of the game. Example, Reggie played defense.
Steph. I think it's pretty. That was probably the easiest one. I actually have a stat here. When they released the NBA 75 or whatever they did last year, a few years ago, there was only one player on the NBA 75 who never won a championship, made first or second team All NBA, or made an All Defensive team, and that is Reggie Miller. He's the only one on that list. So he gets treated like a superstar, which again, he was great with the Pacers. He's a great shooter and all of that. But he's not really even close to a Steph Curry or Ray Allen.
I think he gets treated such like a superstar because he was loyal to one team, and that's very rare to find anymore.
Yeah, absolutely.
But no, you're right. I can't, and I'm a big Reggie fan. I can't argue with anything you said there. So, but no, I thought those were really good questions, and I'd be interested to see what the TNJ Man Show Nation, what some of their answers to those questions would be. But speaking of some names that maybe might have popped up on that list, maybe. You ready for some word association?
Let's do it.
So I tried to make this around 300, kind of. So I got a bunch of guys who are part of the 300 Home Run Club in MLB and the 300 Touchdown Club in the NFL.
Ooh,
and there was a lot of MLBers, so I could not put them all on here. I just picked and chose a few. NFL, I got them all on here. There's not that many, actually. We'll go baseball first. This guy was one homer away from being a member of the 400 Club. He hit 399. That's Andres Galarraga.
Man, he had some pop. Huge, too. There in Colorado. I think he ended his career in Atlanta, I want to say.
And he played for Texas also, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
I believe he did. He massive dude. It's fun to watch hit.
Jim Edmonds hit 393.
One of my least favorite Cubs of all time, mainly because he was a Cardinal Cub for about 3/4 of the season in 2008. He was pretty good, I guess, with them. Jim Edmonds made some pretty incredible acrobatic catches in center field, mainly because he plays so shallow, jog, and then sprint and have to dive to do it.
Yep.
So he became a huge name with the Angels because of that, and then, of course, with the Cardinals. But good ball player.
One of the I almost skipped ahead. Forgot this guy. Johnny Bench, 389.
One of the greatest catchers ever. He was at the Field of Dreams game. And Fergie Jenkins actually threw out the first pitch to Johnny Bench. So that was kind of cool.
Here's what I was getting to. I almost skipped Johnny, but one of J-Man's favorites of all time, Aramis Ramirez, 386.
Loved Aramis. He was so clutch for some good Cubs teams too, 03, 07, 08. That was one of the greatest trades in Cubs history. They traded Bobby Hill and I think minor league pitcher Dave Carruthers to the Pirates for Aramis Ramirez and Kenny Lofton in 2003.
Was Randall Simon part of that deal too?
Randall Simon came later in August.
Okay. All right.
He was an August waiver wire deal. So, he came later. But, man, that Pirates team had some talent.
Ryan Howard, 382.
He was a guy took over for Jim Tomei. Only thing I can think of is Subway. Eat fresh.
Only thing I can think of is our good buddy Andrew Eiler throwing a remote across the room, hit me in the kneecap after he hit a walk-off against the Reds. Reds blew like a 5-run lead in the ninth.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
Thanks, Andrew. Larry Walker, 383.
He got into the Hall. Larry Walker played with the Expos, Rockies, Cardinals. All these guys played for the Cardinals, it felt like.
Jeff Kent, 377.
He was supposedly not a very nice guy.
MVP in 2000.
He won an MVP. Did he win it with? Was he with San Francisco?
Yep. Right before Bonds went nuts.
He and Bonds did not get along either. But yeah, Jeff Kent, by all intents and purposes, pretty mean guy supposedly.
Giancarlo Stanton sits at 371.
This guy had a chance to get to about 750 had he not continued to get hurt. And he still has a chance to he should get over 500. I was at one of his worst games of his career. I think he went 0 for 6 with 4 strikeouts when he was with the Marlins back in 2014.
That's when he known as Mike. Was he known as Mike Stanton then? Or was he Giancarlo?
I do not know. I
Okay.
think he was Giancarlo by that point.
The Todd father, Todd Helton, 369.
It'll be interesting to see if he's a Hall of Famer. These guys get dinged for playing half their games in Colorado, and especially when Helton was there when they weren't dehumidifying. Now, I will say he could absolutely hit. He was a fun one to watch hit.
I would say he's the greatest Rocky of all time. I'd put him ahead of Walker.
Yeah, I would too. And he was another guy that stayed his entire career with one.
True, and made a World Series with them.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
And last one for the MLB, Fat Elvis, Lance Berkman, 366.
Oh, Lance, he one of the greatest switch hitters of this generation. That dude could hit. I hated him, of course. He was an Astro, and then he was a Cardinal, so same division.
Yankee too,
and he was a Yankee in between. I think the Astros and Cardinals.
Yep. I could have had Bagwell on there. He was a member, but there was a ton of other
Bagwell.
names.
Yeah,
Ton of
those
other names.
those Astro teams could hit the killer bees. They had Biggio,
Yep.
Bagwell, Berkman.
Yep. Had some good pitchers, too.
Yeah.
All right, we'll go NFL 300 Club. Matty Ice, Matt Ryan, 367 touchdowns.
He has over 300 homers, huh?
Touchdowns. If he has 300 homers, he's
Man. He was supposedly a good baseball player, too, coming up. A lot of these guys were, though.
yeah.
Matty Ice, 28-3. That's all I can really say about him.
I-
That's what his legacy will be, too.
It's fair. Yeah, unless even if he wins one in Indy, he'll still probably be that. But he looks good in the Colts uniform. He looked good in that all white the other day. That didn't look weird like it does with some guys in their first appearance. Eli Manning, 2-time Super Bowl champ, 366.
Would he be a Hall of Famer had he not beaten the Patriots twice?
I would say no. It'd probably be close, but well, he is. He
will
is.
be. He will
be.
be.
Fran. Yeah. Any more with Eli? No. Fran Tarkington, 342.
Yeah, Minnesota Viking. He was the guy that set the records before Marino broke them, and then of course every other player has broken Marinos now.
Matt Stafford, 323.
I was happy to see him win a Super Bowl. Wasted away in Detroit for a decade, then finally got a chance to shine there in LA.
And last on the word association list for this week, John Elway, right on the dot at 300.
Johnny, he was a Yankee farmhand there at one time.
He was going to play for him at first. They didn't trade him.
Yeah, he refused. I don't know if they did that back then, but refused to put the hat on, in a sense. But worked out well for him and in Denver.
Yes, it did. And it's crazy. You just think he would have thrown more touchdowns because Marino threw so many, but nope, 300.
Yeah, he was more of a guy that he had really good teams around him too, and was able to get to Super Bowls and stuff. And
late in his career, he finally had a great running back and a good line, pretty good defense. Not great, but pretty good. And that's when he won the Super Bowls. He actually had help around him, and Dan Marino didn't have that same help.
No,
because for a while, John would get there and his teams would get crushed. Just absolutely murdered the first 3 times.
He was kind of like Jim Kelly a little bit.
Yeah.
Of course, they lost 4 straight, but.
Yep. And that's going to do it for the Word Association segment, which is brought to you by Proforma Print 2 Promo Group. If you're looking for a trustworthy, dependable resource for your next trade show, company picnic, or sales meeting, they have over 50 years combined experience in promotional products and commercial print. They strive for fast and efficient response to all your print needs. You need to look no further. Let them be your one-source print and promotional company today by giving Barbara Van Weinsberg a call at 574-210-3815.
This episode is brought to you by The Dam Landing. Whether you want an epic burger, hand-tossed pizza, hand-breaded tenderloin, seafood, craft beer, or a handcrafted cocktail, Dam Landing is the place to be. The Dam Landing is a bar and grill located on beautiful Lake Manitou, focused on freshness and quality. You can wash down their delicious food with one of their 16 beers on tap, including a constant rotation of today's best microbrews or domestic flavors, or a handcrafted cocktail made using fresh ingredients. Taking the fantastic views of Lake Manitou in their beer garden or outdoor bar area. Whether it be boats or wheels, the Dam Landing is a place to be, located at 1305 Ewing Road in Rochester. Are you ready to get educated?
Oh, yes.
On this day it's not a great on this day this week, unfortunately. On this day in 1945, Chandler, I don't know who Chandler is, sells World Series radio rights for $150,000 to Gillette. Ford had been World Series sponsor since 1934, and they had paid $100,000 annually.
Those are some big companies.
Yeah. On this day in a lot of NFL All-Star games, which makes 0 sense to me that it's August. On this day in 1964, Fred Truman takes 300th Test cricket wicket. Don't know what it means, but I wanted to say cricket wicket.
Sounds fun.
On this day in 1964, Mayor Richard Daley of Chicago declares Ernie Banks Day in Chicago.
It's a good one. Legend.
Yes, he is. On this day in 19... Man. 1990, Mark McGwire is the first player ever to hit 30 homers in each of his first 4 seasons.
It's a pretty good one. Had some help with some PEDs, but good player.
On this day in 1993, who won the PGA Championship men's golf?
Tom Kite.
Paul Azinger. He won his first major title in a playoff with Greg Norman. On this day in 1993, Nolan Ryan won his final career game. The Texas Rangers beat the then Cleveland Indians 4-1.
One of the GOATs.
On this day in 1999, who won the PGA Championship men's golf?
I should know this. This is wrong, but Ernie Els is wrong.
Tiger Woods.
I thought he was 2000. I think he won 2000 as well. So
he beat Sergio Garcia by 1 stroke.
Oh yeah, that was up in Chicago. That was when Sergio was like 19 years old and kind of introduced himself to the golf world. Yeah, that was at
going toe to toe with Tiger will do it.
Where was that at in Chicago?
Medina Country Club. Club.
Yep.
Who won the PGA Championship in 2004?
This is ticking me off. Was that Sean McKeel?
Vijay Singh. Vijay Singh's from Fiji. I didn't know.
Yeah.
A playoff with Chris DeMarco and Justin Leonard.
Chris DeMarco was always losing majors and playoffs. Poor guy.
Who won in 05 on this day?
Ben Curtis?
Phil Mickelson. Won by 1 stroke from Australian Steve Elkington and Thomas Bjorn.
Yeah, this is frustrating because of the 4 majors, I would say this is the one I struggle with the most on the years. But still, I should know these. So
you have one more chance to get one right here. 2010.
Was that Padraig Harrington?
Martin Kayma.
Padraig was 08-09 then. Dang it.
He won a 3-hole aggregate playoff by 1 stroke.
That's right. It was at Whistling Straits. And that's when Dustin Johnson grounded his club in what they called a bunker. Yep. That's right. That's right. I was moving in my freshman dorm that week. That's right.
Oh, interesting.
That's right.
Last one here. On this day in 2012, Seattle Mariners, Felix Hernandez became the 23rd pitcher to throw a perfect game. There were 3 pitchers that threw a perfect game in 2012, which is the most ever in any one season. It was Philip Umber, Matt Cain, and Felix Hernandez, and there has not been one thrown since. A guy with the Tampa Bay Rays, Drew Rasmussen, took one into the 9th inning last night.
That was one of my bold predictions for the year.
He gave up a double with, I think, on the first pitch of the 9th inning, actually. So that's going to do it for on this day.
It's one of my bold predictions of the year this year. Somebody's got to throw one, but
yeah. Came close.
And the On This Day is brought to you by Mooney Woodcrafts. Mooney Woodcrafts is a veteran-owned and operated custom woodcraft shop based out of North Carolina with Indiana grassroots. They provide 100% hand-cut custom designs that fit your needs. From signs to grow charts, their custom pieces make a great addition to any home, office, or man cave. To see some of their recently completed projects, visit them on Instagram at Mooney Woodcrafts or on Facebook. And for orders, contact them at mooneywoodcrafts@gmail.com.
I've not done a book it yet, so I'm thinking of a book it to do right now. Cubs have a 2-0 lead, and you know how I said that they had the most losses in baseball when they've got up 3 runs this year. But I don't think it'll happen tonight. Marcus Stroman's on the mound. Feel pretty good about the Cubs' chances tonight, so I think Cubs will not blow a multiple-run lead today. So the J-Man's Book of Prediction of the Week brought to you by Indiana Farm Bureau Insurance Agent Travis Watching for life, home, auto, business, renters, workers' comp, and farm insurance. Contact Travis at 219-869-4561. Cubs have the lowest team ERA, or the 3rd lowest team ERA in baseball since July 16th. So that's a fun fact for you.
Right before we get to the Birdie or Bogey, what do you think about the Big Ten media rights deal going on right now?
Yeah, ESPN looks like they are not going to have them.
First time in 40 years.
CBS maybe. Well, the Big Ten will have that 3:30 prime spot that the SEC used to have. NBC, it sounds like, still in talks as well.
Should be a night spot.
Be a night spot after the Notre Dame. Should Notre Dame leave a conference, will they be allowed to stay on NBC? That would help their case to join the Big Ten if the NBC does acquire some Big Ten media rights.
Notre Dame's AD saying this is great because now they can have more games to promote their games.
Yeah, it makes sense. I saw yesterday that Jack Collinsworth, Chris's son, and Jason Garrett are going to call Notre Dame games. So Jason Garrett's pretty boring commentator. Don't know much about Jack Collinsworth whatsoever, but not a great going from Tirico to a rookie in a sense. It's a pretty big downgrade.
Yep. It'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. I don't think it'll hurt the Big Ten not being on ESPN as much as it would have a decade ago. Definitely 2 decades ago. But I think it will hurt basketball more than it will football because basketball, the average viewer knows they can go on ESPN or ESPN2 any time of the week. They're going to find a college basketball game. The average viewer might not hunt down for a specific game in basketball like they would football. Football, they'll hunt it down. They'll find the channel.
Now, I wonder, because Fox has been a Big Ten network sort of, so I assume they're going to keep their deal. I'm not 100% sure, though.
This would be Fox, CBS, NBC. What I saw laid out is you could potentially on Saturdays have Fox at noon, CBS 3:30, NBC 7:30. Boom.
That'd be ideal for sure. And Fox does a good job. CBS obviously does a good job. And this is mainly for football. I'm a bigger college basketball guy. And honestly, Big Ten Network, Fox, FS1, probably not going to be that big of a deal for us. And CBS. I mean, they'll get some games too. But
yeah, it'll be interesting. We'll see. It's nothing's pinned to paper yet, but it's looking like it's going that way.
Yeah. So you want to hear the Birdie Bogey here real quick?
Yes, sir.
So the AP poll was announced today. What team, since the introduction of the preseason poll, has been ranked number one in the preseason poll the most since 1951?
I was going to ask, when was that? Oh, gosh.
They've been doing polls since 1936, but they haven't done a preseason poll only since 1951.
This is hard. This is really hard because there's a lot of programs that come to my mind, and I'm sure it's one of them in my mind. It's got to be in. I'm not going to select the right one. I'm going to be down 2 strokes because this is my chance to tie it up. Since 51, I'm going with a program that they've been good recently, but they were really good back in the day. It's going to make me hate them more. It's Notre Dame.
It's not Notre Dame.
That's why I hate them more, because every time I take Notre Dame, it's not Notre Dame. Who is it?
Oklahoma.
Every time. That's twice. That's twice I've guessed Notre Dame, and Oklahoma's been the right answer.
Yeah, they've done it 10 times. Alabama 9 times.
Alabama was in my head.
I want to say Notre Dame has done it 7 or 8 times. Ohio State, I don't know if they've done it many times.
I was thinking Ohio State, Notre Dame. Oklahoma crossed my mind, but I didn't take them too seriously. I kind of put them and Texas out. I thought maybe USC because they were so good.
USC was up there, yeah. I think Alabama might have been tied with USC for 9.
Dang it. Well, that's 2 strokes back for me now. That was my chance to catch up.
7 over. Yeah. So next week, college football preview show. This is our last week where we have really no football to talk about. I can't wait. One of our favorites of the year. And then we'll do our NFL preview 2 weeks after that. So be sure to tune into that. We will drop some knowledge on you. But thanks for watching the Tim and J-Man Show live on the ISC Sports Network. We'll be back at it, as I said, next Monday. Have a fantastic week, everybody.